And welcome, one and all to the PCS Spring Split Finals for 2022. It has been a long road for these teams. Fighting it out today, PSG Talon up against CTBC Flying Oyster to see who takes the spring crown and punches their ticket to MSI 2022. Hey everybody, I'm Pyrotechnics. I'm joined by none other than Clement Chu as we are ready for one last best of five before we send the boys over to Busan. But before we begin, I do want to take a moment to thank our lovely sponsors. They are, of course, CTBC Bank and Caliber. A big shout out and a thank you for making the PCS possible. And in addition, I do want to thank our broadcast partners, Riot Games, Garena, and of course, Carry Live. Now, Clement, it all comes down to this, but I think the biggest surprise from our expectations at the start of the split is to see PSG coming in from the lower bracket.
Yeah, this has been a lot of really very surprising trends that have been happening with PSG. Of course, I personally had PSG winning this finals 3-0 in my earlier prediction before the playoffs, but a lot of things have changed since then. CFO had a dominating win 1-3 over them in the upper bracket, sending them down, and then we just saw PSG have to come through a grueling 5-game series to come back into the grand finals right here. So the calculus have changed, momentum has shifted, and personally right now I do see CFO having a bit more of a lead.
It is a new day in the PCS. We have seen the J-Team universe really take root here, but in the end, it is CFO that are standing atop that particular heat. And the final boss, they've already beat them once, but back for round two is PSG. Here's how everything shook out over a few weeks of play. CFO, they cruised in their first couple rounds and only have dropped a single game, and that was against PSG in the winners finals. But as we've seen with the comebacks, with the long grind, it is the teams that can outlast and outlive, but they are very different squads than we are used to seeing from last time around. It was the PSG dominance train. Those days have certainly ended. We now have a lot of challengers coming up to take their place, and PSG is a squad that is still rebuilding off their new mid-end jungle.
Yeah, we can talk a little bit about the strengths of each side, and then later on we can go into the matchup a little bit more. For PSG, their strength is still that they have one of the best teams in terms of coordination, in terms of how to play out objectives. I think the 5v5 is where PSG is at. On the other side, for CFO, this is a team that has the best individual talent. I think outside of maybe the bot lane, where you could say, hey, they get outmatched a little bit by Unified and Kaiwing. The rest of the map is very strong, and I think their mid jungle especially is leagues ahead of Juhan and Bei in this postseason. So you have, I think, for PSG, a team that is sort of cornered in their playstyle. They have been very dominant in regular split, but they haven't been able to showcase it in postseason. So far, only one of their lanes has even had a positive average gold difference at 15, and that has been Hanabi's lane. So the bottom side of the map, they need to shore themselves up. They need to showcase their regular season dominance, and Unified needs to come back to his MVP form.
Absolutely. I think that one of the biggest surprises of last series between these two teams on Thursday night was just how strong Shun Koala looked even in the laning phase up against the likes of Unified and Kaiwing. It seems that only a few players have really been able to challenge this duo, but they were one that made it happen. I would like to see PSG return to that dominating lane form. Of course, it was a different squad with Maple and River in the roster, and Bei has definitely not been on the same level. I think that's kind of a harsh comparison because, yes, he's not as good as the legendary mid laner of the LMS and PCS eras. But at the same time, there's room to grow. I like to see him stretch out a little bit. He's played so many Rise games, but the Ahri has been a treat to watch. His Vex hasn't been bad. His LeBlanc has been okay. I think he definitely has a decent champion pool for the meta, but I'd like to see him expand a little bit beyond it. For Juhan, it's a little bit more about setting him up, enabling him. They like to roam as a duo. We've seen that a number of times. But for PSG, it seems like they need to be able to play for a late 5v5. That's where they seem to have the most synergy. That's where they seem to have the best play, because this is a team that do have good coordination when they take those straight-up fights. It's just the early and mid-game that they struggle with. And that's not the same for this team, because early game, CTBC Flying Oyster are always flying high here. They are Rest Gemini, Mission, Shun, and Koala, and their bot laner. Shun came in week 5, and he's torn it up. This guy came absolutely out of nowhere and very well could be the rookie of the split.
Yeah, I totally agree. And in his matchup against Unified and Kaiwing, he actually did very well. They won the lane more times than they didn't. And that was the biggest change in terms of the momentum between the matchup. Now, for a general overview of CFO, this is a team that loves to play for red side, and they like to play for a 4-1 strategy, with the split pusher being their top laner in Rest. However, the matchup does change when they go up against PSG. Rest doesn't always find an edge against Hanabi. Hanabi is a very good top laner in his own right, and Rest even said in interviews he thinks Hanabi is the best top laner of the PCS right now. So I do expect the strategy to shift for CFO. They can play two different ways. They can be very flexible. Number one, they can play for mid-jungle dominance. I think Mission and Gemini so far in the postseason have been simply outclassing Bei and Juhan. And for the second route, they can also play a late game strategy as well. If they corner PSG, I could see them just coming out with a late game win. They are the team that does like to play the Jinx Aphelios a little bit more than PSG that usually likes to play the Xayah in their drafts.
Yeah, and for PSG, I think if they do try to stick to outlaning, they can run the risk of falling behind as the game goes. But if they can shut down the star rookie AD carry and also Koala as well, who's had some crazy plays the later the game goes on, but hasn't always been the most dominant laner, that can be a strategy for PSG to try and mitigate some losses early side and get themselves into a later stage of the game. But I agree with you. Gemini and Mission have been absolutely brutally dominating most of the competition. And with newcomers Bei and Juhan, it could be rough. We will be, in fact, comparing our mid laners in the postseason. These stats do tell a bit of the story. Bei just hasn't been able to put out the same damage numbers by a long shot. And Mission, such a veteran performer, he is so consistent across the board. We've seen very few games where he's struggled, even in the regular season. And in the postseason, I can hardly think of a one.
A huge question here is, what is Bei going to play? Because so far, I have to say this, not a lot of his champions have looked all that outstanding. If they go for a super late game strategy, he should go for things like the Victor and the Azir, champions he normally hasn't played. And just because of the weakness in the matchup, we have seen PSG throughout all of their games, every single one of them, they have to permaban Syndra and Zoe, either on the first rotation or the second. For CFO, they have had two consistent bans as well, and those will be the Ahri and the Rakan. Now with the Xayah off the board though, that could change and they could think about some other champions. Lee Sin is another one where I think is very critical for PSG because it's such a dominant early game jungler just to keep Gemini and Mission down. So there's a couple considerations here. I think without the Xayah, they probably go with the Lee Sin ban, and we'll be happy to just trade Volibear for Viego. That's likely what will happen if I'm the CFO side.
Yeah, last second sticking down. We finally see that ban coming through. It's actually going to be Rakan, even though the Xayah is already gone. Still a valuable champion for both Koala and Kaiwing as we get into the first pickup. I'm wondering, if the AD carry priority still rises here. I think the Jinx makes a lot of sense because Shun just looks so much more dominant on that champion. And without the Xayah counter matchup, trying to put him off kilter, give Unify the pop-off ability, that could be a winning strategy.
This is the confidence we needed to see from PSG. I have talked about this, but in the regular season, Unified was averaging plus 1,000 gold at 15. In the postseason, he's negative 200. So PSG has been very reliant on the Xayah because their bot lane has been underperforming. They really are using Xayah as a crutch just to make sure they get through the laning phase. But I think against CFO, you have to risk it. You have to be confident that you want to play for a late game strategy. So I like this, that they're going for the Jinx right off the bat here, taking a champion away. And they also got Volibear, which I think has been Juhan's it's kind of hard to say it's his best champion, but I think for his team composition, it has been the most important champion for stabilizing the early game. So CFO trying to take things away, and I do see this strategy as CFO trying to shift gears and probably play more towards an early and mid game, while PSG stick towards their late game 5v5.
Yep, and that, of course, has been one of their strongest suits here. They're going to give the Jinx a little bit of extra protection there, as well as a potential ball delivery system for Bei. He's only played one game of Orianna so far this split, did get the victory on it, so I would like to see how well this team fight composition can work out. With the rest of it materializes, they'll be dipping into the pool a little bit more for the jungle pickup. Normally we see higher priority here in the PCS, but got to mix things up a little bit here in the playoffs. Aphelios, no surprises that ends up getting picked. Run the risk of banning it out otherwise, although Shun has shown an aptitude on things like the Kaisa, as it's always possible, but they will stick it out. I think for Gemini as well as this being a takeaway, this Volibear has also been a very successful champion for him, and it does work really well with what CFO tried to do in the early and mid game, getting the dives onto towers and trying to build themselves a snowball up. So the bans start coming in for round 2, and we see the Hecarim off the board. That's another big one that we expected to see for the team fights. It would dovetail really well with this comp here, and CFO are not going to allow it.
Yeah, I think this is interesting for PSG because they want to ban the Victor, but I actually don't think CFO are going to go for the Victor regardless. I feel like their game plan is actually more tempo-oriented than PSG would imagine. They still have to do their due diligence because Victor absolutely destroyed them in the matchup in the mid lane, especially Mission versus Bay. So they're going to cross that one out, but I actually feel like CFO get away with a couple bans here. And on the other hand, for CFO, they're just trying to shut down disengage and shut down team fight potential from Juhan. Those two are going to hit the board. They don't really care about the top lane. I think the top laners are very evenly matched here, so whatever champion that PSG can pick, I feel like CFO are going to feel pretty happy with just a late game counter.
The Azir banned away, but the Galio noticeably absent from the ban column. I feel like this works pretty well with what CFO are trying to do, and it's something Mission hasn't been allowed in a few weeks here, so that could be a mistake from PSG's side.
I think Galio is, it's interesting. They are forcing him into this Galio very hard. Mission, I'll be honest, I don't think Galio is his best champion by a long shot. I feel like he's still much more of a control mage than a frontliner.
He's got a lot of champions, though, to be fair. It's a long list.
But CFO, I think, do want to play more of a tempo sort of phase here, so not too surprising that they are going to lock this one in the meantime. For PSG, I think their best strategy right now is just go for a big tank. Gragas, Ornn are both open right here. And for the jungler, it's a little bit more interesting in this one. I'm not really sure what they can go for. Trundle is actually a really good lane counter to Galio because you can't Justice Punch over his pillar. So that's going to be a nice one and can take away a lot of the tankiness. So I think PSG, frankly, they got everything they wanted in this draft, and CFO are, to me, are a little bit too focused on the AD carry for their damage right now, and they have to have a really good pick that does plenty of damage coming from their top lane.
Yeah, and of course the blind GP lock-in for Hanabi, one of the things he's very confident to do, as well as the Jace. We'll see what the match is here, and it looks like we could be shifting into that 4-1. Ooh, I would like the Jace a little more than the Graves, but, you know, we'll see if Rest knows best here as the timer is going to tick down. This would add a little extra damage in, but it's risky, right? Rest has already talked about how he doesn't feel as confident up against Hanabi, but he's going to be taking the fight to him.
Yeah, and this one is a very finicky matchup. We have seen the sustain from the Graves just win out with that early Eclipse. But I have to say, this is not one of CFO's best strategies. And I think in terms of how the matchup shakes out, PSG made the adaptations that needed to happen. They found something that does late game damage for Bay. They're willing to go back onto Jinx and just have confidence in Unified. While on the other hand, I think for CFO, this is kind of a tier 2 strat for them. It's double AD carry, but it's very reliant on Graves getting ahead. It's very reliant on early game sort of snowballing for mid jungle. And I feel like they will feel a lot of pressure to actually take action against the comp that's coming from PSG.
Yeah, I feel like Gemini in particular is going to be very hard-pressed to make a lot of visits up towards the top side, right? But he could still run into the Trundle. You talked about how it is a good way to deal with the Galio, but it's also just a fantastic stat stealer at 6, right? So many tanks to really try and take that away from. The Nautilus isn't going to be as big, but in particular, the Galio and the Volibear, something he can certainly deal with to put up a big front line. That pillar, I mean, it's non-dodgeable CC, right? So the Graves is going to have a hard time getting over it as well. I really like what PSG are bringing here in game number 1, and we are loading up onto the Rift. We'll see if the defending champions, back-to-back defending champions, I might add, can pull out a win here in game number 1. If they get this series, not only will they be cruising MSI, but they'll be taking a 4th crown here in the PCS, and they're 3rd in a row.
PSG have never missed the finals for the PCS. They are the most dominant team in the region, but now they are facing so many different challengers coming from the J-Team universe. I've got to hand it to them. I think in game 1, I do favor their draft quite a bit, but there always is that one X factor, and that has been Koala's Nautilus. So far throughout the postseason, he has picked this champion 9 times out of 11, and in their last series, he was able to get the most ridiculous hooks against Unified and Kaiwing repeatedly to completely blow up their lane. So if I'm looking on paper, I'm saying that, okay, it shouldn't happen. But in the PCS, Nautilus is S tier for sure, and Koala has been killing it with this champion. That's why he's always first rotationing it.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of supports are really putting a lot of high prio on this around the world, but he definitely seems to stretch that dredge line just a little bit more. And on top of it, Koala has had some incredible plays. He's not always been the strongest player, the strongest support in the PCS in this region, but this split he's definitely been impressing. And the last series against PSG, man, he had the most big brain play I think I have ever seen, baiting out a chase to peel PSG away from a desperation Baron on a Hex Gate, and his team just takes it afterwards. Like, it was the craziest thing. Is it too much to hope that we get another ridiculous bait? That's a very specific ask, Clement, but I'd love to see it.
It was the weirdest way to end a series that we saw the last time around. CFO are going to go for a bit of a late invade, just at least feign that they're going to trade the ward in, but PSG do actually have the ward in here, so information advantage, I would say slightly leaning towards PSG in the end here.
And PSG, coming in with this draft, it definitely spells some confidence for this team, and there were questions as to whether or not they were feeling confident. We heard in the post-game interview yesterday, kind of felt like they didn't really play on their game, and I think it was kind of the same way for CFO too. I mean, they really have looked a little bit shaky in some of these clutch moments. We'll see if they have the confidence coming into the finals here. It is a familiar stage for at least 3 out of 5 of these players, and I do want to hand it to Bay and Juhan. They definitely look cool as ice when they are on point. So, game's underway. Let me get that extended leash there as Gemini will get the 2 start, and off to the races for Game 1 of our Grand Finals.
We are having PSG just give up the push in the bottom side right here, and both junglers will be heading top, as I think this one is the more finicky of the matchups here, so no surprises. Juhan actually skipping a number of camps. There is a potential for him to just kind of rush into a early top lane gank, so we have to pay pretty close attention to that. He's going buff to buff at this point, so we have seen some crazy just one camp in to clear your top side into gank pathing before. So we'll see if that is still the case. On the other hand, Gemini also being a little bit sneaky right here. Level 3 straight into the mid lane gank. And this is a good thing because they know when PSG's ward actually times out. PSG could very well still think that Gemini was on his Raptors, and now we have the gank.
Here we go. They did play to the safe side of the map, though. And actually, Predator is on, but they can't quite chase it down. Juhan's actually waiting for this one, and Gemini, ooh, he was nearly on the wrong side of that pillar. Takes a couple command attacks, dissonance, is able to walk away, but this opens up a chance for Juhan to get a little bit of counter jungling going and potentially take his life. A long wraparound, and oh boy.
Oh, Gemini actually takes this one, and Mission's here.
It's a 2v2. This could be a lot of fun to start things off.
Juhan has a smite too.
Oh boy. Pillar's going down. Faye's on the wrong side of this one. That's going to defensive war force. The flash away mission. He's limping it out. Gemini, he's got a shield, but forced to flash away in the end. 2 summoners burn for the price of 1, but Rest is not going to let this go quietly.
Yeah, so far a big win for PSG here. They put their top lane for Rest in a very bad position. Look at that lane state. Rest can't really jungle safely right here, and his mid jungle don't have the flashes. So PSG with a great outsmart, but oh, they find the hook!
They do. Instant exhaust down onto Shun, but look at the damage they've already dealt onto Unified as he's just walking away from it. The root comes down again, and this is exactly what we were talking about. Koala with the dredge line is a terror.
Yeah, how does this keep on happening? Koala able to find Unified right over the minion wave. And as we were saying, when PSG lose, the biggest reason why is their bottom lane. Gemini now coming in for round 2, but Trundle's around the corner.
Oh, that shield is going to land onto the taunt. Trundle's here for the 2v2, and they see him immediately turn tail and run, as they know Bay does have a flash should he need it. But it's already very clear what the game plan is, just trying to keep Bay down on this Orianna.
These 2 junglers have just not been farming much at all. It's pretty interesting to see the low CS numbers here. Now Rest is in a lot of trouble. He's going to have to burn Flash. I think he might just die.
He might just straight up die right now. He does get the dash, the quick draw, and there he goes, the long over the wall. Oh boy, Rest playing it fast and loose.
Yeah, he had to know that the Trundle was there because he just saw him on the top side. But, you know, kudos to Hanabi. He's been controlling this wave and just shutting what Rest wants to do down super hard. And that does force the flash. A very confident flash at this one. I've got to say, I've seen so many people fail that one in the PCS.
Yeah, it's honestly, I kind of thought we were in for seeing that again, but he had the right positioning for it, made the play. Getting out safely is important, but that cooldown is down, and now he's going to have some trouble here with a level disadvantage over against the side of Hanabi. You can see the CS starting to mount, and that Gangplank is going to scale so much better.
Yeah, a very good back for him. He does go straight into the Sheen, and on the other side, as we expected, Rest does have to go for the early sustain. I think what we're going to see is most likely repeated attempts into the bot side. We do have the Glacial Augment coming in from Koala, and they know there's not an exhaust down there, so summoner advantage in that way. And plus they have the Galio. Usually if you want the Galio, you want to get the most value and go for the potential 4v2 dives. So a couple things we have to pay close attention to: wave state in the bot side, whether Mission can leave his lane, and of course that Cannon Barrage coming in from top also needs to be factored in since Hanabi is playing the Gangplank.
Okay, pair of supports here in the mid lane. Kaiwing standing on top of that control ward, licks it down. A Koala, don't know if he's been spotted here, doesn't look like it, but they don't have an easy opening in this one. CFO, remember, picking themselves this composition that needs to do a little bit better in the early game. So far, hasn't happened. Still a little bit of time to work with, as they do have a 300 gold lead, but trying to see where that's actually coming from right now, because they're pretty far behind in the top lane CS department. Seems like it's all bot here.
Yeah, it has been bot lane winning the trades, and also you have a bit of a CS lead in the mid lane. Lots of visits from Gemini, and I think what's so interesting about this game really is, if you look at the junglers, they are pretty much underneath the tempo because they've been fighting so much and just constantly butting heads in the middle. So neither of these guys are going to be particularly tanky, and it's more utility focused for both of them, which I think does slightly favor the side of Gemini, actually, because against Trundle he's not going to be tanky anyway. So
That's
at
true.
least he's still going to get the stun and, you know, the tower shutdown ability. Right now we are seeing Hanabi start to just crunch down on this lane. He is very decidedly in the lead. He's doing tons of damage here, and you can tell with the minion control, Rest doesn't have a say. He's just picking off CS here and there, hoping that he doesn't get barrel chained.
Yeah, Hanabi could just let those barrels sit there as long as he wants till they pop off, and Mission looked like he was going for a roam for a second, decides to change his mind here. I mean, this is just going to be tough for Rest. He's not going to really get to have a great time playing League of Legends this game unless something changes quickly. And it does make you question the choice to go for this Graves pick as a last one. Very few people can 1v1 shove in Hanabi. He's going to need a little help, and we are seeing a little bit of a jungle invade going on here between the Galio and
Level 6 on Gemini.
the Polar Bear. Yeah, he's going to try to steal away the Gromp here, and Ju1 gets the smite down regardless. So
he gets level 6 off that too. Huge.
He does. That's pretty big.
But in the meantime, Kaiwing somehow dropping to 200 HP.
Yeah, that's actually a pretty good trade. He burns Flash in that engage as well.
Wow.
Extended 2v2.
I wonder what happened in the bottom side, but it looked like Koala found another hook. He didn't even need to use the depth charge for that one, and that's going to prompt CFO to go straight for this top side as we see Koala try to tower dive Unify here.
Unified cannot get safely up here to try and defend. The hook,
Okay.
Minion intercepts this time. Shin goes back. Can't hit them all, Koala, but
Yeah.
there are two plates there. I mean, this is actually a pretty good start, but Ju1 might try for the smite steal.
Herald
Doesn't
goes over.
find it. The pillar denies. Rest is forced to pick it up. In goes the Cannon Barrage. Gemini on the run. Forced to bear drop away, and now Mission's in trouble as his flash had just come off back cooldown. He's walking away. Justice Punch, not to safety, but to try and intercept, and he will finally fall for first blood here, just shy of the 8-minute mark, I should say, as Unified gets rooted down. Gonna get dove, juggling the aggro, flashing Shun. Not the cleanest play here, and he has got to get the heck out of there.
Yeah, that's a 1-for-1 trade down, but CFO get a lot more because they take the Herald and they also take the bottom side. Unfortunately for Kaiwing, his rotation top lane didn't really allow anything to happen. You know, he didn't get an assist on that one, wasn't able to really contribute. And so CFO, I still think they end up winning on both sides here. We're going to watch this one again. A Unified, of course, left to his own devices underneath the tower. He's got nowhere to go. Even though they sort of misplay this by having Shun tank the tower, it doesn't matter. He burns 2 summoners, he still gets a kill and gets out.
Yeah, at the end of the day, they're still going to maintain that 300-400 gold lead right now, and with the Herald, they can definitely try to extend that a little bit more here, despite the fact that Rest has been set behind the Gangplank, won't be able to 1v1 him too easily. He can still line the minions in. I'm curious, though, to see where the Herald drop goes, because Rest is going to be the one who's going to have to, as Gemini was separated from the eye by that pillar of Juhan.
There's multiple ideas right now. They could just drop his bot and have CFO take the first tower. That would be very strong in getting Aphelios ahead and just making sure you get that first break gold and, you know, open up the rotations. Or the top lane, like you said, is definitely possible, but I feel like in order for the top lane drop to be worth it, they would need to kill Hanabi in lane. I think that's the only situation where we would see the Herald drop, because Hanabi so far is still dominating in terms of just pushing down the lane. Oh, but I get what you mean. Sorry, the Herald is on Graves. It's not on Gemini.
Yeah,
like
I mean, he could go bot. He's got to wait for that teleport to come up. I mean, I wouldn't even mind the swap, to be honest, but it's just those little things that PSG forced them into, right? That's the issue right now, is that they actually have to try to force a top unless they want to change something in the lane.
Yeah. I just completely missed that. So in comes the gank right here. But it's so hard.
Okay.
Hanabi is incredibly tanky. He's holding on to, basically he can cleanse any crowd control. So it's going to be hard to actually do this. I think Gemini is just there to kind of help Rest shove the wave out, and at least Rest will be guaranteed the 320 gold up there from the 2 plates.
Yeah, that's certainly not nothing right now. And they did lose first blood on Mission for it. I think Mission definitely misplayed a little bit on that counter engage, on the follow-up. Justice punched in. I guess he probably knew he was dead at that point, but still. However, a lot of planes taken down bot. I mean, one of the big differences right now is what's going on between Shun and Unified. And I do think this is a reason we talk about how this bot lane with a rookie AD carry, it's kind of crazy to see them outplaying Unified and Kaiwing a fair bit here. Now, Gemini is spotted on this ward, gets licked by Kaiwing, but they could be setting up for a dive. Might be a 3v3, maybe even a 4v4 if you keep your eyes on Mission and Bay right now. Ooh. The Dragon is live, so
Juhan might be in trouble. He didn't see that ward, so they know he's here. They're going straight for it.
X-Flash, and into the hook. It was the easiest one as they get the knock-up and Moonlight Vigil. 1, 2, 3. Koala ends up claiming the kill on the Secure of the Ignite. That's going to open up this Cloud Dragon. Nicely played. They don't really telegraph much of anything as they go in for that dive.
Yeah, meanwhile in the top lane, we do see the Herald just being dropped down for Rest, getting a little bit more gold here. I just love that play. That was such a clean technical kill from CFO. The ward does outrange the Scryer right there, and now Koala's going for a second one.
Oh, doesn't land the hook that time around. A little bit too short. Bay's a little low on mana. That certainly would have been a kill, or at least a flash forced away. We are going to be getting an Ocean Rift this time around as the second dragon has dropped, and Rest's going in. A little low on the mana. Got to be careful. Those barrel chains are starting to sting, but he dodges it out just well with the Z.
Yeah, just going in for the plates right there. So he has a total of, I believe, 3 plates at this point, and that should catapult him over Hanabi. So he should be able to just shrug off the constant parlay poke here. But wow, Hanabi's no slouch himself. Getting a Triforce on his back here. Very nicely done, while Rest still has to farm a little bit up here onto the top side. We just see him taking the Krugs and should just teleport into the top again. So as the dust settles, CFO still have a very decided lead into this bot lane, I would say. And I do expect them to just kind of crunch down on this one a couple more times. They can disable the tower for easy dives coming in from Gemini. And so far, their 2v2 does have a quite sizable advantage. If you look at Aphelios, already a big component ahead.
Absolutely. That's a good place for CFO to play through right now. You do see Rest on his back. He is able to match off the turret plate gold that he was able to secure, so he gets himself an Immortal Shield Bow. Still going to be a little tough for him to tangle 1v1 with Hanabi. Should probably be trying to play it at least a little bit safer right now, and you can see those parlays are starting to sting. Teleport into the mid lane. Mission had actually backed. I don't know what caused that one, as he teleports right back in. And we do see, as the plates have officially fallen, 3 in the top, 3 in the bottom, PSG were not able to find any themselves, but they are playing for the later stage of the game.
Yeah, and just to talk about the warding vision a little bit, I think Scryer's like 900 range, while the normal range for stealth ward is about 1100. Hanabi should know that someone is there. He's just baiting at this point. I don't think he's ever going to just straight up walk through. But this is like one of Hanabi's old tricks, and he will just come into river, check if the jungler is coming out. Like by standing there, he does make sure that it's not going to be a full-on collapse there. And as the wave comes in, he will have help at least, as the entirety of the team is now going to rush into Herald. This is going to be Herald for tower trade, and CFO looks like they're going to back up because they only have a 3v5 here.
Yeah, they can respect that. They should be able to take this tower pretty easily. Shun's actually going to get solo gold on it as well, and he keeps on pushing the wave. I mean, Nephelios can march these minions down pretty fast, and because the Herald's only just started, he might get some serious damage on tier 2.
Yeah, he also did have the correct guns for it as well. I think it was red-white the last time we saw it, so he's going to shoot through those pretty quickly. Gemini looking for the steal. It would be absolutely huge if he manages to get this one. He
does! No way! Oh. The surprise bear is the deadliest as he goes in on the blast cone, smites it down, doesn't even burn his flash. What a Giga Chad move.
Oh, that is so costly for PSG because they rotated 5 members to the top lane and they don't even get Herald for it. CFO walk away with a 2-for-0 trade.
Oh my goodness. I cannot believe the cheekiness of Gemini there. Well done. This is going to maybe result in a tower here. I mean, Rest, I don't know if he can totally save this one. Kaiwin can threaten. Yeah, that's going to end up being a tower trade, even with the collateral damage. Doesn't cut the minion wave. And Unified's able to do the job. Juhan even here to defend, but heavy investment for PSG to secure it. They do not get that Herald. Oh, man, I can't believe that one. Gemini, what a brilliant play.
He didn't even have to flash. Just times it correctly, gets the vision with the Sky Splitter, pops the blast cone over, smite, and goodbye! Oh, that was so painful. Yeah, and I think he did kind of bait Juhan out. Usually when you see the Sky Splitter, you're thinking that Volibear is going to try and combo for max damage on it. He didn't do that. He actually just used it for vision and then popped out later. So the tempo play there was, the mind games were there, the execution was there. And just look at his CS as well. He's been doing a very good job at keeping ahead of this Trundle. Meanwhile, in the top lane, we are going to have an equalization by Rest.
All right, so that will be an outer knocked down as the 2 down bottom have already gone. Mid lane's the only one that PSG are holding on to everything as we hit that 17-minute mark on the map. The gold game currently sitting at about 3 and a little over 3,000 gold in favor of CFO. And just off the back of some better plays, some better rotations. But the later this game goes, they're going to need to keep that built up and need to outfight PSG because this is that straight-up 5v5 that they will have as it goes late. Not quite there yet, of course, still only a couple of items apiece at most. And, ooh, Koala goes deep. That's going to be Shun actually tanking on. Ooh, good Moonlight Vigil's coming through a little bit too late as Kaiwing gets the swallow up. Really nicely played, though, to turn it around. Shun just dropping a whole lot of damage onto Unified. PSG, though, do have the inside track on this dragon. It would cut off the Drake stack.
Yep. Gemini, not again. No way.
Can he do it twice? No, it'd be too risky. They are going to try and take the fight up the back, though. In goes Koala. A little bit of a whiff, but
they find Unified. He's
mission
down.
Going through, and they've managed to get the separation. Even with the shockwave, they only lose Gemini, and Kaiwing is separated from the rest of the squad. It's a 3-for-1 trade there in favor of CFO.
What a smart sectioning of the team fight right there. They have Graze on the top side, getting both of the solo lane carries to focus one end, and then they just pick off Unified. So even though they lose that Drake, I still think it's a huge win for PSG because they get both summoners from Unified and a +2 kill lead.
Yeah, right now the gold is definitely starting to scale up here for C2BC Flying Oyster. And, the Drake stack, okay, you can come right back and do it again. Let's take a look at the fight, though, because even though they did get away with it, yeah, Bay's a little sectioned. Koala goes in here, instantly flashes out, and they cannot go in as Mission pulls off the ultimate to zone him away, and it's just an easy cleanup from there. Rest even hanging in by keeping Hanabi and Bay busy.
Yeah, that was a really smart move. So there's 2 components of that I think were really important. First off, Graves actually smoke screen the ramp. So we saw Gameplank and the Orianna on top of the ramp, but they couldn't make it through to their AD carry. And the other point was Kaiwing just used his Devour right in front of CFO. So they knew they had an opening, they took it, really clean play, and they get rewarded huge here. If you look at the Aphelios, this is getting a bit scary. He's very hard to take down. If you look at Hanabi, you know, he has a lot of this anti-heal, but he's pretty much the only one that has a real chance of getting this, getting Shun to even take damage.
And this is crazy, too, because we knew that Shun was such a pop-off player on something like the Jinx, but his Aphelios has been a little more middling. He's played a lot less of this champion, only a couple of games, I think, and it definitely hasn't popped off nearly as hard. It certainly seems that CFO like the resets a little bit better, but he is certainly showcasing that he can play all these AD carries in the meta at the moment, and for a rookie player, taking it to the experience 2v2 of Unified and Kaiwing, it's just incredibly impressive out of this young player. We'll see if they can keep the push going right now. 20 minutes on the clock. Shun leads a few minions into the mid, and Gemini's caught out, but who is catching who? He's keeping him busy into the stasis. Juhan forced to flash away. That is a good cannon barrage to finish off Gemini, but here comes Rest around the side, finds the end of the line, and Hanabi cannot go anywhere here as he's cut off, and Sandwich Mission will claim his life. 2 kills for 1, and CFO keep on rolling.
Yeah, the stasis being massive there for Gemini, and now we do have a 4v3 situation. There could be a tower dive actually being planned right here. Mission is definitely gearing up for it. Oh, but he is spotted out.
Good ward by Juhan. The question is, do they still commit to this? I don't think they want it anymore. Pillar's going to go through. That should force him to just his punch away. Oh, no, just the blast cone. Meanwhile, Rest is like, cool, while y'all are doing that, I'm going to get tier 2.
Yep, does put a lot of damage on that one, and we do have the TPs coming in. Oh, Bay getting angry.
All right, Bay does not have flash, does not have ultimate, but he can slow Mission down. Let's see how fast the Galio can move. Dissonance does tag him as he tries to walk away. Shield for zoning, gets the 2 taunt.
There's no way.
Pillar interrupt, and oh, they will finally claim him, but a big investment there. The Rocket coming in at the last second, and Unified will secure the kill for a much-needed golden fusion.
Yeah, but I feel like CFO were able to drag that out so much that they still got quite a bit out of it. You can see the damage that Bay unfortunately did have to take, and he might not even finish his recall here. So,
no, he doesn't.
You know, they don't get the temple lead, and CFO, at the very least, they get the mid lane tower, and they still hold control towards the Baron. Now, we talked about the scaling. At 3 items, PSG should be dominating CFO. But CFO can very easily find a very quick Baron take with this fed Aphelios before that ever becomes an issue.
Does seem like they will be able to take another fight here in just a moment. We have another Ocean Dragon spawning on the Rift. Hanabi trying to keep the vision clear as he does take down the Scuttle Crab. Rest of CFO getting into position. Missions come off cooldown, and they're making a beeline for it right now. Looking for a pick to set things up. Still 35 seconds to go, and PSG are fully aware of what's happening.
Yeah, PSG are going to have a hard time. I think they just have to push mid and draw this one out. They are much better at disengaging fights than starting fights. They don't have good engage on this team whatsoever. In fact, I don't even think they have a single member that is capable of just doing hard engages. So the best route for PSG, definitely trying to draw the members out, but that also means they will stay exposed. I don't think they have the vision to really contest this wave. Oh.
Okay, they actually just take 2 members into that brush there, and Mission is forced to back away. But this does mean the Dragon is pretty much up for the taking. PSG starting to move towards the Baron right now. We'll see if they actually end up calling on that one. I don't think they'll be able to do it now. They just go ahead and try to set up some vision control.
Yeah, I think that's the best they can do. Like, if they wanted to draw members out, they really needed the left side of the river warded up as well. And now we do have CFO coming in with a 28-minute plant right into the Ocean Soul. I don't think PSG can afford to give the Ocean Soul over. So they're on a timer. It's 5 minutes. Farm up as much as you can. Try to avoid combat as much as you can. Just make sure you get those items in and give yourself a chance in the next Drake fight.
Yeah, if they stick as 5, they may be able to do it. But I mean, Mission is really showcased on this Galio, an ability to reset fights and reposition his team. A lot of diving champions there. Koala actually does get caught out as he goes a little bit too deep into the cannon barrage. Shun dashes away. Not a lot of damage dealt to the members of CFO, and that is some key ultimates down there, or at least the cannon barrage. CFO might have free inside track on the Baron. You can see PSG are afraid that's what's happening.
Yeah, Koala taking a little bit of a risky route right here, but he should still be okay with the Galio in range for the heroic entrance, and they're just going to start this one out. PSG
So fast right now.
question marking it, but they
Oh
might not
boy,
be
yeah,
there
they're
in
going
time.
to be able to. This is going so low, so fast right now. Could go down to a fight after the fact, but I think the Baron is a foregone conclusion here. As Koala trying to hold it, it's going to be the commitment in for CFO. Hero's entrance, they are going to rush it down, secure it up. Koala, man, giving his life for this one. Shield lands. Big old Aphelios ultimate does not do nearly enough damage, and Mission is now in danger of falling off this map. As the chase is on, Gemini forced to hop over the wall. A lot of tools expended to get away, but CFO have managed to do it with all 5.
Yeah, and they also get the flash from Unified. He flashed mid-fight to try and finish off Mission, but Mission is still able to get away there, so a pretty big loss on PSG on multiple fronts right here. The gold lead is slipping away, and with the Baron timer stacking very close to the Ocean Soul, they're going to have a hard time defending the next one. Like, CFO can just straight up push mid, push bot, use the last minion wave, and, set up a big wave. Let's see if they can actually manage that and turn for Drake. If they can properly manage and control the waves, it should be a very, very strong push that buys them a lot of time. Let's watch this play again. So I think the idea here is very clear that CFO are just trying to full rush. I think they actually turned out a little bit too early. Koala is kind of the anchor point with this one. Bay only gets the ultimate on 1, not enough. Bay definitely needed to go a lot deeper on that play. And watch this as Unified very uncharacteristically does a super dangerous flash forward, doesn't get anything for it, and that just makes the next Drake fight so much harder to play out. You're not going to have flash on your AD carry. You're going to be forced to deal with Baron minions as well, and oh boy, this is looking really rough for PSG.
Yeah, they're going to have to hold on. Rough ride here. 26 minutes on the clock and facing down about a 6,000 gold deficit. About to be even more as the teleport comes in here to finish off this tier 2. As you mentioned, the Dragon Timer Soul going to be huge here for CFO. So much harder for PSG to fight into this right now as they've got the 4-1 in full swing. Mission on the side, keeping Hanabi busy is Kaiwing. Oh, that's the flash from Rest to stop that shockwave in its tracks. It will cut down the mini wave, and they're right back to it, though, on the bottom as they've brought Gemini into this lane. Barrel chain, Hanabi is able to keep it cut down, but I think they might be running short on options. That is going to be the third item buy for Unified here, but will it be enough to turn a fight here? That tower is getting cut down so quickly. PSG looking for the opening.
Koala might have overextended. I think he's just...
Goes to the stasis, though. Maybe it was all a bait as they bring in Mission. No, maybe Mission was the one that overextended as well. Can PSG turn this around? He can't quite dash away. 2 quick picks, and now they're on the chase. The resets for the Jinx coming in. Gemini zapped here as he's forced to go for the bear drop defensive maneuver. Once again, the pillar comes up. They reposition. But PSG immediately smell blood in the water, and they should be able to set up vision control here on this dragon.
Yeah, the Baron is still there, so they will get the empowered recalls down and should be able to survive this. But as you said, the vision control now fully on the side of PSG. That was a Rest. I can't believe Rest is still
so
here.
hard right now.
I know, that is...
Rest, what are you doing? If he gets away with this.
He gets away. He actually gets away with it.
Oh my
Never
word.
mind.
He doesn't have Baron anymore. Right. He doesn't even have the Baron. Oh, what are you doing, Rest?
I think he's looking for a flank. Is that like? There's no way you stay here. He does have the one-shot potential against Unified. I will say that, but I still think this is so greedy.
for a guy named Rest, he has absolutely no chill. He gets the back at the end. Nothing gets punished. Nothing happens. Yeah. But that was a good turn for PSG. They desperately needed something like that to happen right now, and it'll make this next fight a little bit more even. Now we have Unified on 3 items. As I mentioned, he got his LDR, so now this is going to be the dragon fight. This is Soul. PSG cannot afford to give this one up.
Yep, the top wave is also just dealing so much damage to the tower here, so CFO, they just want to drag this one out, make sure they get some poke damage in. Oh, and Hanabi is getting caught in the top side. He's got nowhere to go!
Oh, they sandwiched him right now! That's going to use his own ultimate, but they take him down.
And
meanwhile, it's going to be a turnabout. Soul is secured! Gemini just says mission complete here. That's a trade 1-for-1, hugely in favor of CFO, and the minions are doing the work. Koala doesn't want to let PSG back. Oh, it's only bad choices, it seems, as he goes on in. Pillared up, gets the knock-up. They do land it. It's a long run for Mission around the side. The Rocket's going to chip some health, but PSG just cannot get to their own base, Clement. They're being locked out.
Yeah, and we have Koala back with the Ocean Soul. He has the HP, and now he's going back in.
One more time, he will finally fall. Shockwave pulling 3, that's massive right now! Can PSG actually turn the fight here? Mission just limping away, Shun, keeping them back from the rest of the team. And CFO, they were playing with their food, but the hunters become hunted here as they finally even this out. They stabilize. They're not done just yet.
Mission's coming in. He's going to be so fast. Oh,
okay. All right. Kaiwing saving bait from himself right now. That is going to be the reset. Dust is settled, but Clement, CFO get the Ocean Soul.
And I just want to say, like, the Koala going a little bit ham was probably not what they wanted, but let's start from the first. Hanabi trying to find his angle in. He gets picked up right at the start. And somehow on the other side, Gemini, this is Season 12. You don't have Smite advantage anymore, but he still finds the pick for the soul. Just a 1v4 mission. Absolutely huge how much Gemini has just been out-smiting Juhan in this one. I understand what CFO are trying to do. They're trying to stop the timers, hopefully get full kills here. I do think Koala goes a little bit too deep and burns way too many summoners. Like, they could have cut off PSG regardless without going this deep and this close and burning, honestly, just wasting so many summoners here. But the idea here is to keep them occupied and to run the timer out, so when PSG do reset, they don't have time to set up the Baron once more. Now, this one was so close. Honestly, Unified getting 2 more auto attacks could have changed the course of the entire game, so I'm not exactly a fan of those CFO plays, but I understand what they're trying to do. As you do see CFO on the map, they do delay the timers until they can get back on the map first with the Baron control.
It highlights what we're talking about at the beginning of the match, right? Like, CFO are good, especially when they can get these leads, when they can snowball, when they get the jump on their opposition. PSG, they're the more coordinated team, so even from behind, they are still able to fight it out, and that's why this game is far from done just yet. And that timer is ticking. 31 minutes on the clock. Unified is a 3-item jinx. The Flying Oyster have to respect that right now, even though they have every advantage. That Ocean Soul is going to be massive. This Baron is going to be big. If they get it, it's happening in Vision. PSG are going for the fight, Clement, the teleport flank.
Oh no, Rest is not matching this one. They do spot Hanabi out though, and the question now is, can Hanabi run away?
Oh, he's going to try. Oh, those barrels don't do enough. Oh, stop in the name of the law. And they will just take him down. The rest of PSG are going to try to fight this out in the 4v4. But Rest is soloing the base. This Graves is doing so much work right now.
Oh, man. Hanabi actually, the PSG weren't able to close the gap on the other side. So not only do CFO win a 5v4, they also get the bot lane and they force the TPs. Koala's still trying to stop these backs, and they're going to go for the Baron. It's a triple win.
CFO get everything on the map right now, and they nearly take down a Nexus turret. PSG just don't have any good choices here. This is brutal. Rest is going to try to go for the Great Escape at the moment, and I don't know if it's going to matter even if PSG do take him down. They've managed to catch me. Flashes forward, try for the outplay, but you can't really do that against the Kench.
Right?
Rest is so sustainable right now. He's going to go into stasis. He gets the Baron, finally gets shut down, but CFO get everything on this map.
All right, that was kind of unnecessary from Rest. I'm not sure why he was there, even trying to pull off that play. He goes down, and he even does have to burn the flash right there. So, in my mind, not worth it whatsoever. That was Rest just going back to his BM self. And, you know, I think there's a potential that PSG could punish off of that play. But
that shutdown goal for the Jinx. I mean, that's huge.
Yeah, I was a little bit surprised that Hanabi didn't use his Cannon Barrage there. He had to use Cannon Barrage to slow down CFO and actually allow the rest of the members for PSG to catch up. I think he just forgot about the fact that he had ultimate. He just held on to it and didn't use it the entire time.
Not good.
Yeah, it's really weird. We also saw that yesterday in his Cannon.
Oh, okay, chasing. Oh, Hanabi is a 3-level advantage, but Gemini just does not care right now as he goes for the Stormbringer into mission. He might get the outplay. He does. On the Cannon Barrage, it's going to be a 1-for-1 trade, and we take those right now, but CFO, with the heavy investment, they may end up losing an inner tower, but they are pushing for the top. It's an open inhib if they want it.
Yeah, I would still consider that a win for CFO. You know, they actually cut the gold lead, especially with the objective bounties going down here, and yeah, I'm very surprised that he was able to get that one. You are seeing kind of the descaling factor that we were talking about between these champions, you know. Gemini had a very slow start. If you look at his items, he's still sitting on 2.5. And we do have that Jinx now coming in with 5 completed items. This is getting a little bit scary for CFO. If they can't find decisive wins, there's a very real possibility that PSG, despite being in a 4,000 gold deficit, can just win out because they have the better carries.
And they were in a much bigger goal deficit earlier on right now, so things are starting to change despite the soul. I feel like Elder is a massively important take here for CTBC Flying Oyster if they can get it. And, you know, yeah, this is that descaling, right? Like, we were talking about it a little bit in the pregame. I had a conversation with a journalist friend of mine earlier today about the Volibear. In this stage of the game, he starts to become a lot more like a minion than anything.
Yeah, I think Trundle, just with the ultimate, is going to outvalue here. And you can tell CFO are playing this a little bit queasy. They're trying to split a 4-1 and using the bot lane minions that are already wailing on the Nexus towers.
They're at the
so
Nexus,
this is so smart.
You don't actually want to take
the
a fight.
damage!
Oh, that's a massive Aphelios ultimate! The Moonlight Vigil's doing work, and Rest is just running around the map. They are going to bring in the Galio to try and split the fight. The volley goes for the jump on. Faye limps away. Mission and Juhan both go into the stopwatches, and even though Unified is running wild, what is he fighting for right now? The base is in shambles. It's Rest versus Hanabi, and Rest is the one with the bigger gun.
Yeah, Rest with the shotgun. You're able to take down a bot lane tower and a top lane inhibitor. It was a really good find from CFO, but they don't have their jungler in this one. This could be just a straight up giveaway if they continue on this Elder Dragon. Finally, they come to their senses and they're going to back off, and 2 members have to defend against Rest.
This is such split focus from both these squads right now. The Elder would be huge, but if you lose the base, it doesn't matter. Rest, I don't know if he can go for this one. The smite would be right, but there's going to be the taunt. They turn the fight. Unified. Big shutdown there for Shun, and they take the triple kill. They take the Elder, and CFO are taking everything from PSG Talon.
Oh my god, CFO are giving me classic G2 vibes, able to stretch out the map, play on all different angles. They're just out command and conquering PSG. They can't match up with the shot calling anymore. And there goes Hanabi. The base is wide open. CFO are going to take this one in such dominating fashion.
Absolutely. And hey, who says the Graves doesn't do well against a Gangplank in the late game? Holy moly, the 1v1 potential was massive right there, and that is going to be the game. CFO, not without mistakes, but they put on a masterclass of running PSG around the map to take game 1.
What a fun style to see from CFO. Their command of their members and their shot calling, I have to say, is just on another level from PSG. And that is one thing I didn't expect. We have to remember CFO's journey to the postseason. In their second half, they actually were in a very rough spot. They didn't win against a playoff team until week 5, the end of week 5. And to be fair, the team they did win against was PSG. It's been a long trek for them to actually gel their players together, to find their starting roster in Shun, but it's all come together in this finals. That was such a beautiful game to watch, and I think the smartest game we have seen CFO play this entire split.
They are ramping up at the absolute right time, and it's funny you mentioned that week 5 is when things started coming together, because that was the week that they added the final ingredient to this Flying Oyster. It was the spicy sauce of Shun, and we saw him on an absolute tear this game. He can certainly play in Aphelios in addition to the Jinx, and we could see why they opted to let the handshake through. What a brilliant play out of CFO's individual players, but the coordination, that's the advantage for PSG we thought coming into today. And after game 1, I'm not so sure anymore, Clement.
Yeah, we did hear from PSG a lot of their problems do come from the fact that it's a bit harder on your first split to communicate with your Korean mid-jungler. Now, I do commend PSG a lot for making their Korean imports learn Mandarin and try to communicate on the same level playing field, but that takes time. And, you know, we even have heard from interviews that they are having a little bit of trouble with the communication. So when that's already been the thing and you have to contend with 3 different things happening on the map, I think CFO have a decided advantage. Now, going through the draft, I actually really favored PSG's draft. I felt like their draft was strong in the bottom side. You could push in with this composition, and the mid jungle actually had an advantage. Trundle and Orianna actually can contain Galio quite well in the early game, and then Gangplank is just Hanabi's best champion. So I actually really like this draft. I thought PSG was going to take this for sure, but a couple things did happen. Number 1, the bot lane is still in a funk. We have to be absolutely honest about this. Both times there was 0 jungle intervention, and somehow Koala and Shin were able to make PSG's bot lane burn summoners. So that is a very, very bad sign. That means there's a high chance PSG might have to just go back to Xayah to play out this series. And the other point is, I don't think Orianna ever got to do much against the Galio. We didn't really see the push-in. We didn't see the gank pressure being put onto Galio. Mission still had the CS lead throughout the majority of the game. And I have to say that's not really supposed to happen given this matchup. So PSG, they had a great strategy, great draft. Unfortunately, I still think their players weren't able to execute to their normal potential.
Yeah, it did seem like the tempo was really being directed by CFO for most of the game. There was a while where we saw Hanabi really getting the jump on Rest early, and like looking at that in the early game, looking at what normally happens when a Graves falls behind when he needs to get ahead, it'd be easy to write that one off, and it seemed like that was what was going to happen. But CFO redoubled their efforts. They made a lot of moves around the map. They sacked lanes, but they were so fast about it that they didn't even really have to. They were always able to at least trade something back, and even though they dove a little bit too deep, there were a few moments where it looked like PSG could get back into that. The one big shockwave that I can remember was basically on that big chase away around the map. And it was so close to being a triple kill for the Jinx, but it just didn't happen. And CFO, really good presence of mind to split away, even burning flashes after the fact. They maybe shouldn't have been in that position, but they deliver in the moment, and that's what counts. It gives them the win here in game number 1. And what a beautiful performance out of this team. Honestly, it's just wonderful to see, because even the mistakes they make, even the flaws that CFO have are beautiful,
Yeah.
Like, it's just a fun team to watch.
You can tell that they're constantly pushing things. I just want to say, I never want to see Galio plus Volibear try to catch out a side laner again. That was just was usually...
It was great in the team fight, though.
It was good in the team fight, but that is usually how they actually handed the gold over, if you can see in this gold graph. It wasn't that effective, and it did give over bounty gold. So CFO, I don't think they were flawless by any measures, but their creativity on the fly was so damn good. Gemini, he had so many good smites. He took the Ocean Soul, which was massive. He also stole away the first Herald, which PSG rotated all 5 members to get. That was a massive plus trade for them as well. And I just think it's getting... This is probably the best case scenario for PSG. If I'm talking about draft, this one was a bang-out job coming in from Corgi and coming in from, I believe Fly is still there. So they did a really good job from the coaching staff. But if they still can't muscle over CFO, things are going to look a lot worse. I think the most important thing is they need to be able to reach out to Unified. This has always been sort of the problem with Unified. Everyone knows that Unified does not talk at all. Kaiwing has been known as the Unified translation machine. So whatever you need to communicate to Unified, you have to go through Kaiwing, and that slows down the process. What they need is for Unified to get into the right headspace, for him to not tilt. Because we have seen Unified, in the past, if he doesn't have a good game 1, game 2, and especially this entire postseason, he's been looking really off. If that's the case, then I have to be honest, I don't think PSG stand a chance. They need to get him right.
Yeah. Mental reset's very important, but especially in the case of Unified, who already sometimes doesn't communicate with the team as much. And for PSG, I mean, they definitely had a great composition. I think that is something you can't take away from them. I'd love to see it again, and Rest will win the MVP. Man, what a journey from getting outplayed by the Gangplank level 1 and 2 and finding the Graves late game just blowing him away with a big shotgun for 30% of the team's damage. Oof. I questioned it. You questioned it. It got results.
He was in such a rough spot in lane. Honestly, I think if PSG were willing to just play out the laning phase, Rest was kind of toast. If you think about the early few waves, he was getting zoned out because the wave was getting frozen by Hanabi, and he lost the top side between his jungler and mid. So I felt like Rest should have been over. Like, it should have been done. Unfortunately, I felt like PSG actually took the foot off the gas pedal because their bot lane was in so much trouble. They went for the early Herald play just to equalize things, and it actually gave Rest a pretty good out in that chaos. He found the kills in the team fights and was able to restabilize. It was great comeback play. He didn't suffer from the early setbacks, and he continued to be such a nuisance in the silence.
Oh, yeah. Just honestly didn't even need to be with the team. The 4-1 was brilliant to watch, and I really like that you compared them to G2 Esports. There's a very real possibility we'll get to see them play up against each other at MSI, but maybe we're getting a little ahead of ourselves. We still got a series to play out. We'll be back with Game 2 right after this.